Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to see how we can interact with an API to get the codes from the Breaking Bad TV series and display it in a unique way, which is the Swiper card. It's famous for Tinder cards, like Tinder when you swipe right and left. So here we are implementing the same visually. So this is how the app works. So here we have a code from one of the characters in the series, and then we simply just swipe right, and another code is going to be the next card. Then this one, for example, we swipe left and we have another one. So this is what we are going to implement. So first we go to the pop.dev. And to implement this swipe card, if you search the pop.dev, for example, you search for Tinder swipe or swipe card or Tinder card, there are lots of packages. I selected this one because of the number of likes, number of popularity, and pop points. You should also select a package when you look at the results based on these three measurements. So we selected this one, Appinio Swiper. So when we go through the package, explains what it does, and there is an animation or GIF on how you can implement this package in your application in different ways. Either you can have it like this one, just a button that you click and the cards automatically swipe right or left, or you can swipe right or left with your mouse, or when it is on the device, obviously with your finger. Or you can create two buttons representing right swipe and left swipe, and other customizations as well. So in terms of installation, it gives you some examples how to install it and how to use it. Then this is a useful table for constructors. We are going to come back to this later on. So for the API, this is an interesting website, Breaking Bad codes.xyz. So this is a website that gives you access to different codes from the TV series, and you can access it via an API. So if we come down, you can get a random code using this API. This gives you just one code, or you can get several random codes. So we are going to use this one. It gives you several random codes. So this is the API that we are going to use. So we are going to need this link. Now back to our project, we simply create a new Flutter application. Then before going to main.dart, we go to pubspec.yaml, and here we need to install two packages. One is obviously the swiper, and the other one is HTTP package, which is a very important package if you want to communicate with an API or you want to get some information from the internet. So after installing these two packages, we go to main.dart. Inside the main.dart, we simply import our packages. We need the material package, we need the HTTP package, we need the convert package from Dart. We are going to see why later on, and we need the swiper package. From the top, this is all the standard application for Flutter. We create the main, and then we have the app, the classes related to the my app class, and we get to this part, the main class that we are going to code. And here we create a codes variable, and this codes is going to be the type list of dynamic, which means that we have a list of dynamic types. Inside the list, we could have string, we could have integer. So this is going to be dynamic. The name of the variable is codes and equals to empty list for now. Then we move to init state. Inside the init state, we are going to call fetch codes function. The purpose of this is to load the codes from the API when the app starts. So right in the beginning, we need to get the codes so that we can have them in the variable and populate them to display them as the cards. So what is the fetch codes? So we implement this after init state. So in the fetch codes, which is a async function, if you are not familiar with async functions, I have a video, complete video, that you can watch it to understand the async function. So inside this, we have the response variable. Inside the response, we have await, which is another keyword for async functions, http, which is the name of the package, .get, and this asks the package to go and get the content of this following API link. Inside this, we can just put the text, the link itself. We need to have the URI format of the link. So we are going to use the URI.parse and we are going to paste the link that we got from the Breaking Bad Codes website. Then we are going to check the response, because when we make the request to any API, we get the response back, whether the request is successful or not successful. So the code for successful request is 200. You can Google it to understand the different codes. So if the response is 200, which is successful, then we are going to assign what we have received to the codes variable that we created before. I added print statement here to see what we get from the API. It's not necessary in the real application. This is just to see how it works. Then in the set state, we write codes equals to json.decode response.body. To understand this, let's run the app. If we run the app, because of this print statement, we get the response from the server. So if you pay attention here, this is the start of the response. So we have code, this is the code, and then we have the author. So this is the first part, code, then colon, the value, which is the code. Then we have the author, colon, the author. So it repeats. This is the first one. For the second code, we have again code, the actual code, and then we have the author, which is the author of the code from the Breaking Bad TV series. Then we have another one, code, and then the author. Again code, again the author, and then code, again the author. So this API returns 5 codes. Inside each one, we have the actual code content and the author. So we receive this response from the server. So in order to use this in Flutter, we need to convert this. By the way, this format that we have the code, so we have the key, this is called a key, and we have the value for that key. Then we have a key again, author. We have the value for that key. So this is key value pair, and it is repeated a couple of times in the response from server. So this is called JSON format. So to convert this into something that we can access in Flutter, we are going to use json.decode. And this is from the convert package that we imported earlier in our project. So what this does is that after this is going to decode this format, this text. And after this, we can say, what is the quote 1 quote? We get this one. What is the quote 1 author? We get this one. What is the quote 2? We get this one. What is the quote 2 author? We get this one. It's much easier to access the elements of the response from server. So after we formatted the response using json.decode, we store this in quotes variable. So this is one important part. The next important part is the actual cards and the swiper. So inside the build function, we have the same scaffold and an app bar. And then inside the body of scaffold, we have our package Appinio Swiper. So inside this widget, what we need to mention. If we go back to the package and this table, this is the parameters that we can mention in our widget. And if we check the required, this one is true. So we have to mention this one, otherwise we get an error. And these are false, but this one is true. So we have two true and the rest, they are false. So when we create this widget, we need to provide two necessary parameters. One is card count, how many cards we want to display. And another one is card builder, how we want to build the card, how our card is going to be displayed. Others are not necessary, but it's helpful if you want to go through them and see how you can customize your card. For example, the padding, you can use the padding parameter, or the duration that every animation should last. The default is 200 milliseconds, so you can use the duration parameter to change that, and so on. There are lots of options. So going back, we have the widget here. So the first thing is cards count. How many cards do we need? So for this one, we already requested our codes from the server. We got the response and we converted it to the format for Flutter. We know that the type of variable is list. So basically we can say quotes.length. This is going to give us how many quotes we have in our variable. Then we have cards builder. In the cards builder, we have the context and then the index. The index means the first quote, the second quote, the first quote. One by one, we go through the quotes. Then we have center, because we want to have the cards at the center of the screen, and then the container, then width and height, because our app is going to run on different devices with different screen size. We use this media query to adapt the card size to the screen size. Then alignment, we have the center and then some basic customization like padding and decoration, box decoration, the color of background, which is here pink 50, then the borders radius, and so on. Then we come to the column. The column here shows the inside of card, the inside of each card. So the inside should be center, and then we have the text, which is the actual quote. Here we say quotes index, which is the same index we mentioned above. Then we mention quote. You remember in the response from the server, we have this one is the first quote. So it's going to be quote 1, then quote. This one actual value of this one is going to be returned. Then we have some formatting for the text, and we have the second text box, which is the author. We are going to display the author. For this one, we say quote index 1, the first quote 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the author. We want to get the author part of the response. So who is the author is going to be the widget under the quote. And then we just run the application and we get this output, and then we can just swipe the cards. So after 5 cards, it's going to be empty because the server returns only 5 cards. So that's just the demonstration on how it works. But for your purpose, you can add a favorite button to save the card, or you can add a like or dislike for each card, or you can have a refresh button to click, and then we get a new 5 codes, and then you can display them as well. So I hope this was helpful to understand how HTTP works and how the swipe card works. It's an interesting visual element and widget that you can use for your application. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.